how do I define influence? So usually when we say influence, it's how many people have learned from that person and done their thing. But in a video like this, I'm defining influence by a few different things. Number one, how popular is that person? Is that person a household name? Do people, not just saxophonists or jazz musicians or musicians for that matter, do those other people, do the lay people know that name? That's a powerful influence. Also, how many people actually aspire to sound like them, even still today? How many people have incorporated that sound into their own sound? How many people are transcribing those solos? All right, so these are some of the things that I've used to really define what influence is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get to it. So tied for number 10, ladies and gentlemen, we got Kenny G and Branford Marsalis. And I know some of you just took a massive... Okay, hear me out. Kenny G is not just one of the best-selling saxophonists of all time. He's not just one of the best-selling musicians of all time. He's one of the best-selling recording artists of all time. He's more popular in terms of record sales than a lot of rock bands that a lot of people like. I mean, it's an absolute phenomenal feat to be able to do this as a saxophone player, popularizing a saxophone that wasn't even that popular. I mean, soprano, not so much a novelty instrument per se, but people weren't really playing soprano. Now people are on YouTube buying saxophones just to make a YouTube video and then sell it. These people don't even play saxophones because they think it's going to generate that many views, which it may or may not, but it's that popular of an instrument now, and we can largely attribute that to somebody like Kenny G. Kenny G is also a household name to people that know nothing about music, let alone saxophone playing. And with that kind of influence, that is a fantastic feat. And with that kind of name recognition, that moves us to Branford Marsalis. The Marsalis name is straight up jazz royalty on planet Earth. Take into consideration the classical saxophone work that he's done, having bit parts in movies. The Tonight Show, teaching at various universities. The dude is very, very prolific. And good luck transcribing that St. Thomas solo. Coming in at number 9, ladies and gentlemen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jamie Aebersold, someone that should be ranking very high on a lot of people's lists. And that name, Aebersold, is probably more popular than the Marsalis name. So as far as name recognition, that name is humongous in the world of jazz and pedagogy. Oh my goodness, man. I had the opportunity of going to one of the jazz camps, the one that was in Louisville, Kentucky. It was around 1990, 1991. 15, 16-year-old kid. I got out of my dad's car and Jamie Aebersold is just leaning onto a post, chilling, jeans and t-shirt, shaking people's hands, welcoming people into the jazz camp. I didn't even think he would be there. I didn't know, I thought it was just his name on the package and then you'll learn all the stuff. But here's the guy out there like, hello, I'm Jamie. And I'm like, Jamie who? I mean, I got that old pamphlet where he's younger on there. So I'm like, it was like Mr. Rogers. He's just like, hello, I'm Jamie. He went through the combo rehearsal, sat in, played, gave us all these tips, man. I mean, the day I got there, I piled into a van with a bunch of other jazz guys and we went out to this outdoor amphitheater and we were out there listening to some live jazz. And I was like, this is going to be a really, really good week. I mean, I'm sitting here, some little ignorant teenage kid figuring out saxophone, and I'm just chilling with some of the heaviest hitters in the game. Coming in at number 8, ladies and gentlemen. Adderley. When I listen to any of the saxophone players from yesterday, Cannonball Adderley, probably more than anyone, is one whose sound just really, really works today. If I were to name one saxophonist that is absolutely my favorite of all time, I probably got to pick Cannonball, even though I'm a tenor player, but yeah, Cannonball is just dope. Coming in at number 7, Marcel Mule. Definitely one of the most pioneering saxophonists of all time, especially in the world of classical saxophone, helping to legitimize the saxophone as a real instrument and as an instrument worthy of being taught at the collegiate level. There's a massive body of work that has been contributed to the field of classical saxophone. Coming in at number 6, ladies and gentlemen, Lester Young. When I listen to Lester Young from the late 1930s, 1940s, I hear a lot of that still in music today that guys are playing. And I'm talking like the most modern smooth jazz stuff. Lester Young's sound fits very well with that approach. Lyrical, melodic, rhythmic. It's something that fits very, very well today from so long ago. I mean, it's hard to not put Lester Young on a list like this anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, coming in at number 5. All right, let's take a break. Number 5, ladies and gentlemen, we got standing the test of time, Sonny Rollins. You're looking at 7 decades of playing and recording, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, hitting the game that hard for that long just puts you in a category. This probably should be a whole different category of just Sonny Rollins. Definitely that stuff is being taught at the collegiate level. I mean, pretty much number 5 and above are collegiate level learning from the influence of these saxophonists. Considering how long he's been in the game, he just relatively recently retired. Back to classical saxophone, ladies and gentlemen. Coming in at number 4. Cigar Rascher. And in a lot of categories, this guy is coming in at number 1 for sure. As far as elevation of what a saxophone can do, how this instrument should be approached and played, it's hard to beat Cigar Rascher. When you get to college, you are definitely going to wind up going through that top tones for saxophone, Altissimo, and tone production book to help build the fundamentals that you need in order to play this instrument well. The teachings of Cigar Rascher are just absolutely fundamental for not just understanding how a saxophone works, but really understanding some basic principles of how you should be playing this instrument. And if you deviate from it, understanding where the deviations are in order to get the desired sound that you want. So, ranking really high, Cigar Rascher. Coming in at number 3, ladies and gentlemen, and you guys knew this was coming. John Coltrane. Train. When we start to get to somebody like Train, we're not just talking about an influence of saxophone. We're talking about an influence on jazz. People who don't play saxophone are transcribing Coltrane solos. You're learning Coltrane harmonies and this extension of the basics of jazz harmony in the same way that Charlie Parker did. We had Train elevating this thing to the next level. And when you take into consideration that there's a church of John Coltrane, how spiritual he went with his music later, like that late Coltrane stuff, I find myself listening to a lot of it recently, and I'm just like, man, like I'm starting to really get it now. After some 36 years of playing saxophone, I'm finally starting to get there with Late Train. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Coming in at number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Bird. When you go to any kind of jazz camp or any kind of college, you are studying the music of Charlie Parker, regardless of what instrument you play. I mean, saxophone is like this big, but Charlie Parker is this big. The body of work that he put out, his approach to playing jazz is so phenomenal to everyone who's playing music. And to me, it's bigger than just saxophone. Other people who don't even play saxophone are transcribing those solos. Before we get to number 1, ladies and gentlemen, let's go over some honorable mentions. There's a lot of names that I left off. Like, how do you not have Sidney Bechet, Benny Carter, Phil Woods, Coleman Hawkins, Ben Webster? I mean, what's the matter with you? Why would you leave those names off the list? But when you take into consideration how many people are still today actively sounding like those guys, are they a household name like Marsalis or ABRASO or even Kenny G for that matter? I've put this video together for something that's going to be relevant for today, 2020, 2021, this kind of thing in the future with saxophone and influence. I do highly advise you to check out the names of those guys that I just listed. I mean, Sonny Stitt, definitely one of my favorites that I didn't put on this list. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to number 1, let's take a break. Coming in at number 1, ladies and gentlemen, without this guy, we'd all be playing badly made clarinets. Adolf Sacks. This guy almost died so many times, they gave him the nickname Ghost Kid. And that's just when he was a kid that he almost died. Somebody shot and murdered somebody thinking it was him. But he was a kid. He fell down like flights of steps. He was poisoned. He drank some poison. He was found floating in this river. Wow. He wound up actually having this tumor that grew on his lip. He went and saw like this magic Indian guy who whipped up some formula, and he made a full recovery. He couldn't eat. He couldn't play. I mean, wow. I want to do a video just on Adolf Sacks because there's a lot of conflicting information. One of the most badass dudes ever, let alone a saxophone player. He dared his competitors to make a saxophone that was better than his. He put off getting the patent for a saxophone for a year and dared these people to do it, and they couldn't do it. There was a coalition that was started to pretty much just completely destroy Adolf Sacks because of his ability to basically refine musical instruments and thus create a musical instrument that bears his name. If you guys like stuff like this, let me know in the comments below. And again, I want you guys, if you think somebody should be on an influencer list like this, let me know in the comments below, but also let me know who you think shouldn't be on a list like this based on the way I've defined influence. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you. See ya.